honits and on ahns and zashin big hako da yelzinde ati yon hin minsa ndati kohde aro he hot ego inna ben hikechistle onzaten hide yos khasenda a creature in a bed and ilting and that in a benan can Nike heart also not الخطط أي بعفونيتشن أجن نقول جهكي بين هجن دحين نانجيدو بين هجن دهجت إيجيدو كرو خام سبوشين إن أبو أهن دهيتن إتلهكي أبين أنهن كنجيشين كرو بين هتخطى هالزلدو بنش هجون صح كيسن لنجي بيننا إيه هو تيسلا أكونده نانا ساتشكو ستو إسكوجن بانا هميتشن هادوشين جن نربن كاتشوغا نيل سكوت خان سكوشين هيته هوتين هوتيلا انت إنت أهيبان هيسكوجن له نخاشن استخاهدا نخاشن بنا خيغودا إيشي بان هيسكوجن رو ليسجي بان هيسكوجن له أرو هوت إيغو إننا بسخدت إيغو باخونيتشن دو كدوشين ناسكو جوي كاتن ليدو ليس نهيدا نابس شانح نيت لينغو يات إيكو ياديل تكيدون دا إيكي نيت كينغو كده تلاش والجاي نهيت آنجو خندلي بيت آوشين تنه بتاعدي نيت سندو خدون نيسيان دا نيت سنغو دو يات إيكو دو بان سيدي كيسلي أشخو دخان كده تلي إنا نشتري نينسي نيوستو كدو يات إيهو الخانسي كيستو الخاتسو ديلزندو كدو ناس نانتكن بي نخالشن بلي كاهم ليدو ليس أنا نشيس زيجين إيسي شلباهوزن أشيني التوهر نيتا انت خدزان ليني بين كسينتو كدو هجويات إيهو أكويتشن ناس نحت أن لني كدو تنبنات آني نيت ليغون خان دهو جوستلي روشيات إهدا خوينيت أتو بنيجي إنه بنحسب كاغو تنه يك دو تلاستو يا بسوشون هايشي كدو أتاخدون نيسن لني نبكيل تكيتو ليس هارو شهر دين إيرو تلال سوش بين هيك أجت لهيكي يات إيكون خينادا دستودو جاشي توغو تدس كاسن ده وانغون إيكو نكيدا دستودون هيتشميان إيرون هنانش ده هنو يكاهنلا وأشهدنا سوش بين هيك أجت لهيكي أروى نين هديجن سوشنا إهوسن ولرون جنون هستن هذن لا جهنا إيدا competence دوسه إيجويت إهنا إيدو صوتا نازنال إن ده صوتنا دتي لوتو خيت أوشي بينن هن دتي يستون هن ده هستكيتو كارين هن دتي تشيس بنا هولجيزن لخي بدين نيجو أرون جنگو تون تخيلبنس أن زدو سلوش نادا هدن لاند سيدي دن جنگو أتان نيسة إنشي أتان نيرون جدا حد خاص أو إلنيسة جلت خالجون دن جنو خددن لادو جل إزيدات إيغبان سيكيس نهل تلوش آهنا دن تلاس هوت إيغوني أهوزن هيدين ليني أرو كهدي ننخاتشدن كيزو هنزاتن هيوس كاتنزل أشهورن كيسون لكون بيش مهس أنا خباجي نبقى هناتين ديكو أرون كسبيكر لو بجيرو بنسكيس بيخونزل كرو يات إيكو كرو بهي كاتنزيدو ليس أرون دتا نهلاج تلستيج كرو President Nez Vice President Lizer أرون ليدو كون بانادا إيش نليدو بسكون لوندو ليس أشمودا يات إيكو ناسن فدن بهي كاتنزيدو بندخويت أو شهد نهديجن لنيدو شهد آن خاتين كروس نيتلنيشين في خون لورو أشهر نهديجن ليني خون سكون شهد جوفادين نيجي بالناشونال Jesus Christ Amen.
Thank you for that, Chair Naz. It's always really nice to get prayers from other committee members. I know that we have been, we've had visits from Chair Daniel So as well, who's also provided invocation. Thank you very much for that. And I appreciate, you including in there, the birds and, just the little blessings that we tend to forget that we see every day in our lives. So thank you for that reminder, Chair Nez. We appreciate it. So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed forward at this time to recognizing guests and visiting officials. We do have 3 members of the Law and Order Committee who are present during this time. At this time, I'm going to ask Chair Rick Nez, since you provided the invocation, Chair Nez, if you want to introduce yourself to those who are on the line listening at this Law and Order Committee meeting. Chair Nez.
Honorable Chair Charles Newton. Chair, you have crossed at Rick Nez and she has one son or Zaid Kachini, Bashis chain, son of Bitneda, she shadow can on a dashanella. Could they wait and then see those San Juan chapter do a has tongue of chapters, Panash, Nishige, Hog back San Juan, and then Hanzat, Upper Fruitland, Burn and Don Nicum. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Chair Nez. Are there any other council delegates who are on the line who wish to announce themselves at this time?
This is Delegate Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown, if you want to introduce yourself at this time.
Oh, have been Shanala Ado Law and Order Committee that Shananta. Get the sneed Ado in Navajo be Kato Nohoka again the Nanny Clini. Dehenils and Lea. Shea Toba Hanslo, look up, Bashin, Kiani does it as a fan of the Shanala. I don't lay Shadene, Ena Nishna Kidashahninda, in the Chilchin be Twaha the world's largest rug community. Ado Danohot Sohahot, so Eya, the Yok Edat Dilie, Ado Eshibich at the 100 Ado Twitter Nation. Le lago Nekehedelsen and the Jonia Ba Henson Ajashit Nabana Shanigi it's a privilege and an honor to be in these positions as not Anis Koho Enka Henson do Ahon Sodole Ikeheshanala.
Thank you, Delegate Nathaniel Brown, for joining us and for your introduction as well. Do we have any other council delegates on the line who wish to announce themselves at this time? Okay, not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and we'll proceed forward to asking, do we have anybody from the Speaker's office on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee, staff guests. This is Nikita Kirk, Legislative Staff Assistant with Office of the Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nikita. Do we have anybody from Office of Legislative Services on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Julissa Johnson, Policy Analyst with OLS.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Are you going to be assisting us today in any way?
Not that I know of, Madam Chair, but I'll be listening in.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Do we have anybody else from Office of Legislative Services who wishes to announce themselves at this time?
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Rodney Tahe, Legislative Advisor for Resource and Development Committee. I'm on the call also. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Tahe. Thank you for being on the call with us this morning.
This is Lorraine Spencer. Kiani Dasachita is Sunstein, and I assist the Law and Order Committee as Legislative Advisor. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Everyone listening in on the call, Shea Shroud and Share. Initial touching Bashis Chains and Anjane Cherry Dove Discipline Dashanala. I am the Legislative Assistant for Law and Order Committee. Thank you.
Thank you guys for the introduction. We'll go ahead and proceed forward. Is there anybody from Office of Legislative Counsel on the line?
Good morning, Law and Order Committee. This is Dana Bobroff, Chief Legislative Counsel. I will be with the committee in 11:30, and then Loya Henderson will be take over for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bobroff, for making that announcement and letting us know. Do we have anybody from the judicial branch on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Law and Order Committee and Navajo Nation Council delegates. This is Karen Francis from Office of the Chief Justice.
Good morning, Karen. Thank you for being on the line with us. Do we have anybody from the Office of President and Vice President on the line?
Good morning, LOC. This is Tamara Johnson, Executive Staff Assistant with the Office of the President and Vice President. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing yourself, Ms. Johnson. Do we have any executive directors who represent the executive branch? Do we have you on the line?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Mark Graham, Executive Director of the Office of the Navajo Tax Commission. I'm on the line.
Good morning, Mr. Graham. Thank you for announcing yourself and being on the line with us here today. Do we have any chapter elected officials on the line?
Good morning, Chair. This is Marcarlo Roanhorse, Ganado Chapter President.
Thank you, Mr. Roanhorse, for being on the line. Do we have any other chapter officials who are on the line who wish to announce themselves? Okay, not hearing anything, I'd like to ask, is there anybody on the line who wishes to announce themselves for the record?
Good morning,
This is Leonard
Chair.
Gorman.
Charlotte Yazzie from the Office of the Speakers on the call.
Oh, Chief of Staff, thank you for being on the call. I'm sorry, Mr. Gorman, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Leonard Gorman from Navajo Human Rights Office. ICAT.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Ben, Mike Holona, Navajo Land Department. I mean, slow as she was just saying, talk on the Senate, Kiani, the chair, done next. Yeah, Ben.
Good morning, Mr. Gorman and Mr. Halona. Thank you both for being on the line. This is last and final call. Is there anybody who is on the line who wishes to announce themselves on the record this morning?
Good
morning,
morning.
This is Robert Willie with the Controller's Office.
Good morning, Mr. Willie. Thank you for being on the line. It's okay, Ms. Woody. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, Law and Order Committee. It's Thomasita Woody with Department of Personnel Management, Human Resources Director. Welcome to everybody. And good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Honorable Delegate Chair Charles Newton. This is Etty Anderson Abasta with the General Land Development Department. And good morning, other Law and Order Committee members. Thank you. And Chair Nez.
Good morning. This is Yat Bennett. This is Melvin Harrison, Chair of the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors, and also LDA for Delegate Carl Slater. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Robert Willie, Ms. Thomasita Woody, Ms. Etty Abasta, and also Mr. Melvin Harrison. Thank you for being on the line. We appreciate everyone who was listening in. We'll go ahead and proceed forward to the next item on the agenda. That's item number 3, review and adopt the agenda. Lorraine, can you go ahead and read the agenda into the record, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. Agenda of the Law and Order Committee, 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting through telecommunication, November 14th, 2022, 10 a.m. Presiding Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman. Honorable Otto So, Vice Chairperson. 1, call meeting to order, roll call and invocation. Number 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Number 3, review and adopt agenda. Number 4, review and adopt the journals. There's none. 5, receiving reports. 8, report from Thomasita Woody, Director, Department of Personnel Management, regarding annual leave not used by Navajo Nation employees and sick leave not used by Navajo Nation employees. 3, report from Mark C. Graham, Executive Director, Office of the Navajo Tax Commission, and Jesse Delmore, Executive Director, Navajo Division of Public Safety, on the First Responders Fund. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. 8, legislation number 0201-22, sponsored by Honorable Rick Nez. 8, close of meeting, announcement and adjournment. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, the agenda has been read into the record. Can I get a motion and a second for the agenda?
Madam Chair, and a motion?
Motion made by Vice Chair Otto So. Can I get a second?
Second, Delegate James.
Second by Delegate Vince James. So with that, committee members, are there any questions, comments, or any amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time?
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair Otto So, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes, I want to address legislation 7A 021, correction 0201-22 before report. Thank you. That's going to be my amendment.
Thank you. There's been a motion to amend the agenda. Motion has been made by Vice Chair Otto So, and that motion is, or that amendment is to put new business A before receiving reports, item number 5. Can I get a second? Committee member, second made by Delegate Eugene. So good morning, Shajat. Thank you for joining us this morning. So with that, committee members, first amendment has been offered. Are there any questions or any comments before we go to the vote? Not hearing anything. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call a vote for amendment number 1? Actually, before I go there, Lorraine, since the amendment has motion and second has been made, do you reread it back into the record, or do we wait since it's just moving the item up?
Madam Chair, I can do it now, or I can do it at the adoption of the agenda.
Let's go ahead and do it when we adopt the agenda. So with that, committee members, let's go ahead. Oh. Let's go ahead and go to Vice Chair, your phone is not on mute, just FYI. Sherelle?
Okay, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes red.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James votes red. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, that is not sure.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 1 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting, and Honorable Edmund Yazzie absent, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with a vote of 2 in favor, 1 opposed, chair not voting, and 1 delegate absent, the motion to amend the agenda is hereby accepted. So we'll go ahead and ask the committee members, are there any other questions, comments, or any amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time? Okay, not hearing anything. Lorraine, let's go ahead and do a second reading of the agenda for the record, and then we'll go ahead and we'll vote on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. So after number 4 will be number 5, new business A, legislation number 0201-22. Following that will be 6, receiving reports. A and B will stay the same. And 7 will be old business. And then 8, close of meeting. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, the second reading of the agenda has been made. I will go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. And this is the vote to accept the agenda with the one amendment. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Yes, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, God, please don't show.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting, and Honorable Edmund Yazzie absent. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with the vote of 3-0, the agenda is hereby accepted with the one amendment. We'll go ahead and proceed forward to item number 4 on the amendment, review and adopt the journals. There is none. Item 5A, which is new business. We do have legislation number 0201-22 on the agenda. We do have the sponsor, Chair Rick Nez, who is present. Lorraine, can you go ahead and read the legislation into the record? And then upon completion, I will ask for a motion and a second for the legislation. Lorraine?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee. Tracking number 0201-22, an act relating to law and order, resources and development, health, education, human services, and Nabakia committees and the Navajo Nation Council, amending Navajo Nation Code 13 NNC subsection 1901, 1902, 1903, 1905, 1906, 1951, 1952, and 1953. This has gone through the 5-day comment process, and there's only one comment that was received under comments that are opposing from Clara Day, and that document is attached. And this will move forward to Resources and Development Committee and on to HES and Nabakia Committee and Navajo Nation Council. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, legislation number 0201-22 has been read into the record. We do have the sponsor who is available at this time. Committee members, can I get a motion and a second?
Vice Chair, what motion?
Motion made by Vice Chair Otto So. Can I get a second?
Okay,
Second made by Delegate Eugene So. Committee members, we can do this 2 ways. If we have any questions to the legislation, we'll give the sponsors some time to present. If there are no questions to the legislation, we can proceed forward to the vote. This legislation was sent to us and it has gone through the 5-day comment period. So I'd like to ask committee members at this time, are there any questions to legislation number 0201-22? Okay, not hearing anything. We'll go ahead and we'll proceed forward to the vote. And this is for legislation number 0201-22. A motion has been made by Vice Chair Otto So, a second by Delegate Eugene So. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, God, please, Shehu.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Go green.
Thank you, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting, and Honorable Edmund Yazzie absent. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, legislation number 0201-22 does proceed forward to Resources and Development. Chair Rick Nez, thank you so much for providing the Law and Order Committee meeting with invocation this morning, and also for being on the call to present your legislation. Before I excuse you, is there anything that you'd like to say to the Law and Order Committee at this time?
Thank you. Yes, I would appreciate it. Aro sheheshnant but of the non-swarsa aro shin nabkiet kidro full council the shima naidos kido lesto again sago digen hit holora. So thank you, Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you for that, Chair Naz. You have a good day and be safe wherever you go today. So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and move forward to the next item on the agenda. We have 6. Lorraine, is it old business or are we on new business? I believe it's old business.
Madam Chair, after 5 is new, 5 was the new business, so 6 will be the receiving report.
Okay, item number 6, receiving reports. We do have a report at this time on the agenda, report from Thomasita Woody, Director for the Department of Personnel Management regarding annual leave not used by Navajo Nation employees, sick leave not used by Navajo Nation employees. And just to be clear, we did request for this to be on the Law and Order Committee meeting because we do have our first responders who were not allowed to take annual leave or sick leave during COVID. Well, I think they took sick leave, but I think a lot of it was just the annual leave that has accumulated. So we do need to get some information for the first responders who have requested this information. So with that, do we have Ms. Thomasita Woody on the line? Ms. Thomasita Woody, I know that earlier you announced yourself as being on the line. *6 if you need to unmute yourself. Ms. Thomasita Woody, are you on the line? Lorraine, can you please call Ms. Thomasita Woody? She announced herself as being on the call.
I'm sorry.
She is on the line.
Okay.
I am on the line. I'm sorry. I was helping an individual.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Woody, for being on the call. So with that, Ms. Woody, I know that we did request a report from you. You have sent us a written report, but we'd like a verbal report on this. Committee members, can I get a motion in a second to hear the report, please?
Delegate James motion.
Motion made by Delegate Vince James. Can I get a second? Committee members, I need a second.
Vice Chair, 1 second, motion.
Second made by Vice Chair Otto. So with that, Ms. Woody, you have presented to this committee before, but just as a reminder, we'll go ahead and give you 20 minutes on the clock. You can have up to 2 agents during this time to help assist you with your presentation. Upon completion, if you could let us know that you're done so that we can turn the floor over to committee members and other delegates who are on the line who may have some questions regarding the report. At this time, do you have any questions before I turn the floor over to you?
In terms of the report, are you wanting to just do a verbatim report as the memorandum that was sent to you?
Yes, because the report was not submitted to other members who are currently on the call to hear this report. So if you want to go ahead and read that into the record, then at least we have that.
Okay, I do. Thank you for that, Honorable Charles Newton. I also will have Racita Toddy, who is our class and pay manager, also on to assist me with that. So those would be my agent. If I need more, I don't believe I need more. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. So at this time, everyone who is listening in on the call, if everyone can please look at your phone and make sure that the mute button is highlighted. You could also on your computer, right next to the start video is the mute button. Make sure that your phone your phone and your computer is muted. Any interruption that is made during this time is interruption that is it's interruption of the work that is being done by the Law and Order Committee on behalf of our Navajo Nation and on behalf of our Navajo people. So everyone, you have been warned at this time. If your phone is not muted, we will hang up. We will hang up the line, and so you'll have to call back in again. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over since we do have a motion in a second that has been established. Ms. Woody, you have 20 minutes on the clock. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, members of the Law and Order Committee. My name is Thomasita Woody. I'm the Human Resources Director for the Department of Personnel Management. Been with the organization now a little bit over a year. The question that came in relation to questions that may have been derived at a meeting. So was respond to these questions, and I tried to, at my best, provide a thorough response, also being very general. So this memorandum was dated November 10th, 2022 to Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman of the Law and Order Committee, Otto So, Vice Chairperson of the Law and Order Committee, Vince James, Committee Member, Eugene So, Committee Member, Edmund Yazzie, Committee Member, Paulson Chaco, Chief of Staff, and my direct supervisor, Dr. Perfilia Fowler. She is the DHR, Department of Human Resources Division Director. It's a DPM response on annual leave hours. I did review the information according to the agenda, and it also included sick leave. And if you have questions on sick leave, I will go ahead and do my best to respond to them as well. Written response via email that was sent to my attention at 2:04 on November 2nd. According to the Navajo Nation personnel policies, revision of the policies, the response is as such. Number one, what happens with annual leave not used by Navajo Nation employees? And this is from the policies. Response, Navajo Nation Personnel Policy Manual, Section 11, Leave Administration, B, paid leave. 1, annual leave. Annual leave is authorized absence for rest, recreation, other purposes when approved by the supervisor. A, eligibility. 1, regular status employees are eligible to accrue annual leave hours. 2, temporary employers are not eligible. 3, Employees on any type of leave without pay are not eligible. 4, political at-will employees are not eligible. B, the limitations. Employees serving a new employee introductory period can accrue annual leave, but cannot use accrued annual leave until they have been converted to regular status. Number 2, termination within the new employee period voids all accrued annual leave hours. C, accrual rate is below based on years of service and whether you're exempt or non-exempt. And every pay period, you will receive either 4 or 6 if you're less than 3 years. 3 years to 12 years, you can accrue 6 hours or 8 hours, depending on your exemption status. More than 12 years, 8 to 10 hours. Eligible employees will accrue annual leave at the following rate. Eligible, number 2, eligible regular part-time employees accrue rate on a pro rate basis. Number 2, questions from Honorable Charles Newton. Our officers and first responders were not allowed to take vacation leave during COVID. It is my understanding that there are only allowed 320 hours of annual leave, and anything after those hours that are accumulated are lost. My response, yes, and outlined in the Navajo Nation PPM. However, Honorable Mark Freeland sponsored legislation to aid to this effect. See attachment, and it was legislation number 0266-21, and it was sponsored by Mark Freeland. Just reading what this legislation summary sheet dated December 21, 2021, title of resolution and action relating to health, education, and human services, approving a one-time waiver of the Navajo Nation Personnel Policies Manual, Section 10B1E, to allow employees to carry over all of their 2021 accrued annual leave for 1 calendar year until December 31st, 2022. That was the legislation that was attached to the response. The question, my understanding is use it or lose it. My response, per Navajo Nation PPM, if the employee is unable to bring their annual leave hours below 320, the overage will be forfeited. Question, I want to know what happens to the money accumulated for annual leave when that annual leave is not taken. My response, a really good question. However, according to NNPPM, the employees will forfeit the hours. For this reason, it is increasingly important for supervisors to understand the implications of this effect, meaning that the ultimate responsibility is then given to the supervisors to work with their staff if they have an exorbitant amount of annual leave. What we normally do here at DPM, and I didn't put this in my report, is that we will send a memorandum that is from DPM to all of the supervisors, issuing them a memorandum stating that if you have an employee who has more than 320 hours by the end of the coming calendar year, then those employees are then provided, should be provided notice that they need to bring their hours down. So that comes from DPM on an annual basis. Question, please tell me the maximum hours of annual leave can be accumulated by an employee. Response, per Navajo Nation PPM, 320 hours is the maximum amount of annual leave hours that can be accumulated by a regular full-time employee. Question, tell me what happens when the employee reaches the maximum number. Response, per NNPPM, if the annual leave hours are in excess of 320 by the end of the calendar year, the excess hours will be forfeited. Question, tell me if it saves the Navajo, the nation money, where does that money go? Response, I just need clarification, so please clarify your question. Question, tell me, is there any law that needs to be changed that will address this matter? Response, specifically to annual leave hours, the only revision that may be necessary to consider cap annual leave hours upon the separation of the employee leaving the organization. So from what I understand, according to the legislation that was drawn up by Honorable Freeland, any employee who then leaves the organization will be able to take those hours and continue to roll them over to the end of this calendar year. Question, explain to me annual leave and what happens when that annual leave or that leave is not taken. Response, per NNPPM, annual leave is authorized absence for rest, recreation, and other purposes when approved by the supervisor. If annual leave is not taken, the employee will continue to accrue annual leave hours. A little bit correction on that one is that, say for instance, if an employee is still working, they will continue to accrue hours. If they're not working, then the hours, stay there in the bank, in the annual leave bank. What happens when the employee, when the leave is not taken? Response, annual leave hours will continue to accrue throughout the course of the year until the last Friday in December. It's actually this year, say for instance, we have 27 pay periods. So it's not due to forfeit until January 13th. So it just depends on the number at the end of the year and then per pay period. Usually the last Friday in December will determine the number of hours that will be forfeited by the employee over 320 hours. Going on to the HR director recommendations, implement a paid time off policy, which is PTO. This is a combination of personal time, vacation days, sick leave, maternity, bereavement leave, etc. And it allows for a rollover policy that allows accrued PTO hours to carry over into the following year. If they remain unused, however, the implement a cap when the employee leaves the organization. Other allowances could include a payout of PTO leave and usually eligible to employees' years of service with the understanding that those hours will not be paid at 100%. A little bit of explanation to this is that when I'm saying, have a payout, most organizations who do have this type of policy, be mindful that annual leave or annual leave payout are expensive to any organization, especially when an employee has more than the allowable annual leave payout. So what I'm saying here is that when you implement a payout policy, the individual would, depending on their years of service, would be eligible through this. Of course, it's all policy driven, and it allows the employee to be paid out those hours instead of losing it. You could also have a rollover policy. You could also have this payout, which would be, say the person has been with the organization for 10 years and they have more than 320 hours. At the end of the calendar year, what they can do is request for those hours to be paid out by the end of the year. And these are just examples that we can work with, but of course it's all policy driven. The other part to that is rather than pay the employee 100% of those hours, when I say that is that the employee and the supervisor still have the responsibility to ensuring that the employee does take the necessary time off. You don't want an employee to get sick. You don't want the employee to burn out. So these policies that are in place for annual leave or sick leave are specific to those. When you talk about paying out, I'm saying pay out not 100%, but pay out at 80%. And it's all based on years of service. So you could use 80% for someone who's been with the organization more than 10 years. You could use 70% for somebody who's been with the organization 5 years. So those are things that we can also look at in terms of maybe a payout program. Then the last part of my memorandum is that just let me know if you have any additional comments or concerns. And that should be the end of my report, but I would like to turn some time over to Ms. Toddy if I had missed anything, just to make some clarification on some of the items that I had read through the memorandum. Ms. Toddy?
Ms. Racita Toddy, the floor is yours.
Good morning, members of the Law and Order Committee. The only area that I'd like to clarify is the question that was posed. Please tell me what the maximum hours of annual leave can be accumulated by an employee. And this one here, I noticed that you wanted clarification on the number of hours that one could accumulate. And the response that I indicated here is per the Navajo Nation Personnel Policies Manual, the accrual rates vary based on the employee's years of service and the non-exempt and exempt classification of the position that they occupy, and also the number of pay periods. For the Navajo Nation, we do have 26 pay periods, and the chart that was that we were utilizing was based on the years of service. Anyone with less than 3 years of service, if they're non-exempt, they earn 4 hours of leave every pay period. So within one leave year, they could accrue up to 104 hours. An employee that is occupying an exempt position, they earn up to 6 hours every pay period. So for the leave year, they could earn up to 156 hours. An employee who is employed with the nation as a regular status employee, 3 to 12 years, non-exempt employees earn 6 hours per pay period. So they could earn a maximum of 156 hours within one leave year. An exempt employee is eligible to earn up to 8 hours of annual leave. The maximum number of hours they would earn could be up to 208 hours per leave year. Any employees who are employed more than 12 years, non-exempt employees are eligible to earn up to 8 hours of annual leave. So the maximum number of hours they could earn is 208 hours. For an exempt employee, they are eligible to earn up to 10 hours. So within the leave year, they could earn up to 260 hours. So that's the total number of hours one could earn. However, if they're on any kind of leave and their leave hours are earned on an pro rata data basis. So like I indicated, it does vary. So that's the clarification that I'd like to provide. And I guess just some information back in, let's see, about 2018 or 19, I believe, there was proposed legislation to switch from accrual basis to paid time off policy. And as Ms. Woody indicated, that she defined what PTO could be. However, there were issues with how that was going to be implemented and whether or not the leave balance that employees have would be paid out, or if they would start out with a certain number of hours and allowed some time to utilize some of that leave. So there were several meetings held. However, there was no decision made on it. So that legislation did not move any further. Yes, another clarification for sick leave. Employees, there is no limit on the number of sick leave hours that one could accumulate or earn. And for the Navajo, in the Navajo Nation policy, the accrual rate for sick leave is a regular full-time employee is eligible to earn 4 hours of sick leave every pay period, and a part-time regular status or seasonal employee would earn 2 hours of sick leave every pay period. That is the extent of my clarification or report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toddy. I appreciate the clarification. In relation to the sick leave hours, it's fairly simple in terms of across the board for everybody accruing 4 hours of sick leave on a pay period basis. But other than that, you know, those are, I hope that clarifies any questions or concerns. Otherwise, I'm here if you have further. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Woody. And for the delegates who are currently on the call, just a heads up, I did send out the report to the entire 24th Navajo Nation Council. The purpose of us asking for this information to come forward is we do have many of our first responders who had submitted for annual leave prior to COVID. And then of course, COVID hit. And so annual leave was denied. A lot of them are police officers that were at the time very close to the 320 hours, because our officers, criminal investigators, our police officers, our firefighters, and our EMT, it's very difficult for them to take time off, especially long periods of I guess, annual leave. And so many of them have reached that 320 hours, or they're getting very, very close. As was already stated, Delegate Freeland did drop legislation sorry, I was just now looking at it. 02. Okay, I can't seem to find it. But he did drop legislation that basically allowed that carryover to occur, but that carryover ends this end of December. So first responders are affected by this, you know, the change or things that are coming back into normal. Normally, once a first responder hits that 320 hours, they are the hours that they're accumulating for annual leave, they lose it. Meaning once they hit that 320 hours, that's the cap that they're at. So that was the purpose of us inviting them, to talk a little bit more about, what we can do, because many of our first responders are still not allowed to take a lot of annual leave time. And just for clarification, if you were to take that 320 hours and divide it into 8 hours of annual leave, that's 40 days. That's 40 days of annual leave that a person would, if they wanted to use the entire 320 hours. But many of them usually want to take, a week or 2 weeks off, and oftentimes they're not allowed to do that. So with that, committee members, are there any questions regarding the report that has been provided to us today by Ms. Thomasita Woody and also Ms. Racita Toddy?
Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Otto, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Ms. Woody and also Ms. Toddy. We know that our first responders, try to take leave for the families at certain times, whether it's for EMS or public safety, criminal investigation, even corrections, and all the way down to fire department. But I think, in my view, it's going to take a certain leave policy to be created to allow carryovers happen at a minimum amount, or whatever the requirement is. If it's 240 hours, 240 hours. But what I'm getting to is that the excess. Say a person has 380 hours accrued and of annual leave. We know that, and then we know that sick leave cannot be paid out. But what I'm getting to is that to create a policy to allow the carryover amount to happen, that's in place. But to allow the differences, the use or lose, be paid out to the police officer. Well, in this case, if it's 320 hours that they have, they can carry over only 240 hours. That allows about 60 hours of annual leave that is potentially use or lose. And I think that could be subjected to automatic payout to the police officer, because one, or to a first responder. One is that he or she may have been told you can't take leave during this time. You're needed. So annual leaves were denied. So I know that there's a couple of police officers that face that, many police officers. And the mechanism is funding, is looking for the funds to pay that. And if we can, maybe have something that you could look into to see if it's even possible. Because I know that even with the accrued leave, that's it's paid out from their salary, but for annual leave to be paid out that's not taken, that payout would have to happen from another source of funding. And maybe this is one way that we can sort of spicing up the recruitment efforts for individuals in the public safety field, individuals in the or in the first responder field. So It is on there. I'm gonna go on mute now. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Delegate James Shinale.
Delegate Vince James, the floor is yours.
Here Shinale. Ado shate Swedi yat eko. Ado kodo isenal agi yat benen hidini dode. Di kodo banete. Nache nachata anish ta anish has anje aje de nebekaya pelhotso. Bek isedon nanish edne nihitne khadeides do nana atnhandal nashida. Ajo anhina naslini das on konzate hilta hoel jishnle. Ado anta di kodo banete enegi. Nleide نخاطئ نشيكي خو بتش انت هويل نادو انت خاليت او نانشلني ايا إحلاتو ايا ينتلين دو لسلا جكوت اكو خدو ديد او نانش ولونغو ونانش ولونغو ايت نيلتو ادو لابين الفاهزن اكو اخد ايكتا اي هونيتلا ado ahat egita iya tihni tohtat ehita wanat iho kwaiki to chukot eko khashit eshi jo ban pata anneshiki khashit eshi ta lato ya konsenle ado lato to ya konsen daleko kwaiki to naneshti to ya isha ta ni ho ado neta tahalchi do nana ta ai don hili hanana lieta no ta hot ayata tkhile ako kwaiki has aneki ani na ikhnani ako nihisi zendo hajo na neshte ya ta de no le do na neshuluni hajo de no kha chokot akonte alo la ta hanika khishi ta wanat iho islahot ako ado ol na ako ako banjil nashita baby khojil na khashit khashin hot iho do eya hot glada le ta ya hadina edo ta adije na ho azel inko dina ade azel enna sosla na ido li akot out eya ta no ta akot hot aho ta hot so ado lebe be na hitnil ado ata hot so be eya hita it ho non nationally del endle ko that's in hita ya akonit ko the nebekaya hot so be non nationally ni kha iki ko non nationally ta de hiki ko ako khote ba net ko ba yel thi khala dil ni la ala ita ta hot it ala ita eya betayiska di kodo achi na di ni lo kodo ba yel ki do ba ni jokot ado on sana ha kis le ko nle de ba na hat ene ta ba yel ki ta isa hot ado anda ni hetene en khatel ni shich ni ta tes o ade be khanet stop el yel ki chehit ko khashit au ayo alchen ta de nil nile alchen ya dene ta del nile ako DPM that nache banan nashiki it's your department je khishi koje he il kd ki na nal sosi kat ni ye zohiki the timekeeper e aje shi basala ni he do eat ida jo konanet ele ado ade ta nadel ne ho e dpm nadet ni ado dpm e koje beso nad zo has anje beso aje hot abe ada hosen omb na hast anje no ta nadel ne ado omb da e dpm na nishblas anje aje te na hat not neta ado dpm la jonna na yesi payroll aje da ille has anje e aje e konanat adonal sosi hanane de ado payroll e ade e dpm do omb ato system yi inanet leta okut au alche inda hoyil nani e hot an hinane state e ko ako kati di kodonal sosi hetatos sosi Kasta ha eta shegel lecht on sort oban sus case ko. Did alt was la sig le shi da do o da ba na yo ne. It's not a priority nini hot a heat out. Hot out shi ban sa ha case. Jo I da bita is ka dot I da the hot in. Jo kot ado agent lan han da public safety. Just allow because anje da nish. I don't know this lights are has kai. Na nisto yidanetle di kodoba yashti. Ordinary that delni ordinary that aho ancient or no. Ohot o yuna neshich ada has kaisli. Alt ankote na neshipo in ilka. Did na nespetask has kuni la is kado kuni la bedinitle. Jokut adiana tieko. Akot ashin higil chot ashin shi hot alche that the dinil neho. Also del chot. Adona neshits ada has kai gishin to dan cho ado the nebil hot so agenda and neshi ado agenda yo nese. Ado bin yaho hona neshijil ihla. Dort nahwa hin zenda lela. Quite no ordinary that delni. Hat no da shi I da hot adne ekiltalne o hot dix actually do hot idne yelche yadal hele ko shi beninak at hot hit jenel on nanest o yubitsk and has anko Koche Division of Public Safety has anje ako halit kodo hajo dilni la ado hat no do asati Koche has aniki human resource asati anhe hiring idolicht anhe what idolicht neneto Division of Public Safety to hadishi chukota hot ahon has anko ako dishi hit all not git ako kodo nebe ben hilhonne kot na hiko ikuni la na be hit zochtolde koje be ilini na neshbets ade na neshin liniki leave na happy hit zochtolde hat no to en de ben hit na honne to ako o hayut o hayu to la ya day off spaceling ako sick leave do general leave la at ya hot badasto le ako da be najenesh on koko ashi ane dota na nest on the land shapato quite hat no da leave request dal on shi to or deny dal na yan that o hayun his staff accrue a day la sick leave or general leave on sort o hot avance case ako Do hot nego goshin to la do hot banda has to don de yospada do listened stoko. Ako ban sa ha case ko halit leho kodo nal sos linigin hitchen ko sala and so nal sos linigin strako. Kodo la alka dija hiti nin alka di lo hiti nin. Ako di nal sos o kojinal sos be has ani. Aja da bukake o ade be iliagon hitchen na nachtla ko. Ado kodo na adik hidigi sto o nal sos da bakao baka na da lado o holst so ade nat in hitch na so zi zili ko hot aho nal sos na la ko ha ikilla alch edo niligi la nihi kodo na ha ya na ha bidinil je o kodo o hot aho hitch na hot ko ako shise do la do dains and la Department of Personnel has undet la do dains and la ta shide ya shishohni kot ya Johns and la dit out ilia do dit out what out ilia do bakat ako nihi aje Department of Personnel Management because anje Quigent Hinanish linear of Quigent hot deal ado there Kodok Albayil case in Hilhanahin Deko. What are your recommendations from your department to address this issue? Jo quite gibahat then Halid on he aden hinahat la Halid out in he aden because under the highlight aban so case la choput isins hat egita hat ni lati kodo our laws are outdated, our policies are outdated. Oh he did no ko at kote biketa hui jen Nahabik ehol jijen la quite dit for don niftit ilia shot manan sha. Disha hit aban socation at musliniki had and hin he had under the hit aban sockcase. John hit quitchen hot ni hit the nan hilia he ka quitchen hot hit the nan hitch at the had net don hitch and don nenda. Ako kodo nihinch ke do le la hit out adoban so case la nsen ako aden Department of Personnel Management and he has ani halit out ban so case nihin he has ando aden shan he hono chokot ako kod out na dikido sad linigi be hasti do le shinale chair Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, though Vice Chair Chanel, though members of LOC.
Thank you for that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and turn the floor back over to you at this time, Ms. Woody.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Edmund checking in, okay? Good morning.
Good morning, Delegate Yazzie. Thank you for being on the call. So with that, Ms. Woody, I'm sorry, Delegate Yazzie, did you have a question for the presenters?
No, Madam Chair, committee members, I just wanted to say I'm on the LOC call now.
Thank you for that. So with that, Ms. Woody, the floor is yours.
Thank you for those responses and some questions, Honorable Otto So and Honorable Vince James. Let me go ahead and respond to Honorable Vince James in regards to the concerns that are being shared today. And let's give you a little bit of my experience is, when an individual is, when I go into these types of positions, a lot of the times it's to make the necessary improvements and to evaluate what those improvements could be. Could they happen? Are they too extreme? Are they too soon? Or what is going to make a department better in relation to how it operates? And the easy answer is yes, it's going to happen. Yes, it can happen. But there's also a lot of players into that and how it's going to happen. And a lot of that, and if you've heard any of my reports in the past, I've always said, it requires support from leadership, support from all departments in relation to the responses. One of the things that, just like I said, I've been here a year, and believe me, there isn't a day that goes by trying to make the necessary improvements. A good example is talking about the human resources management system that I've been trying to put in place. And it's, hasn't even gone through the 164 process. So all of these things get put on hold that could really make those initial improvements. My staff, I have to tell you, they work very hard to do what they do. Unfortunately, we don't have a really good system that would really provide us the necessary means, for the whole entire organization, or you could call it enterprise system. So it's not like we're not trying to make these initial improvements. It's just how and when can it happen and who can support it. One of the things that will ultimately change with a new system is policies and procedures. Everything changes. So I've been preparing my staff to accept the changes that are going to be coming down the way with the new system. But I'm also preparing them to be, we're going to do it right the first time. So in relation to recommendations, the recommendation that I can honestly say at this point is, because it not only involves one department, we have to look at the entire organization, because every person matters, every employee matters when we make these changes. And it can't just be designated for one department, unfortunately. Those are the things that have to be put into consideration. A lot of times I've been told, we need to get this in place, we need to get that in place. Okay, where do we find the funds for it? How do we fund this? I can't even spend money from my own budget. I have to ask, how I can do my job. So, a lot of that stems upon, and it's not excuses, it's just reality when you're in a position as I am, and any other department manager is put in that predicament. So when it comes to recommendations, we have to be able to look at what those recommendations entail. So then we can make those and start the initial changes so that it makes sense for the entire organization. Mind you, we're not just one department that looks out for one department. We look out for the entire Navajo Nation and all of it that comes with it when it involves the bottom line, which is employees. So, provide us that support. And I appreciate your words. They're very heartfelt. And I think that as a leader, I'll look to you, and not only for my community, but also for this entire Navajo Nation to continue to press me on those, because it's, keeping me on my toes. To the recommendations for Honorable Otto So in terms of recruitment and using that as a tool, those are really good tools that we could also put into place in relation to using that as a means to say, this is, we just don't recruit people, but we can also retain people, and these are the ways to do it. Coming up with a very inventive way to make those necessary improvements within the policy are just recommendations that I made with regard to, let's look at a PTO. If not a PTO, let's continue to use annual leave and work on that one. As far as sick leave, we do have a number of annual leave hours. Sick leave hours that an individual or an employee can accumulate, and it does roll over. The only thing is at the end of their determination or the end of their employment, it doesn't go anywhere. Now, the question would be, where does these hours go? That's another really good question, and I can explore those. In terms of annual leave hours, I'm always going to implore on, and this could be a really good reason as to the recruitment, in terms of an employee being brought into the organization, and using a retention strategy to hold those employees so that they maintain, the staffing, for every department that is impacted by these situations. So those are good recommendations. We'll definitely explore those. If there's other recommendations we can make, we definitely will speak to our oversight, Health, Education, and Human Services Committee at that time. But this is a good opportunity to discuss it now, because it does speak to these policies. Right now, as I was saying, the current policies of the Navajo Nation are designated for employees who are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We need to develop a policy specifically for 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So those are our policies that we are in the review of, so that it complements what the first responders could use this policy. We do get a lot of questions from our payroll in relation to maybe police officers or the first responders in terms of overtime. And a lot of it, they come back and say, well, there's no justification. And what I have spoken to payroll about is ensuring that we continue to work with this with that department, so that these are our first responders, making them understand that we have to work with them. And without them, where does that leave the Navajo Nation? So we have to try to understand the circumstances when it comes to payroll. So those are certain things that we can look at. But that pretty much hopefully answers some questions. If there's further, please do let me know. And my door is always open. You're welcome to call me and share those concerns with me, so then I understand it. That's the only way that I really understand the circumstances that would be a justifiable answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Woody. Are there any follow-up questions to the response?
Shinalis, Delegate James.
Delegate Vince James, the floor is yours.
Here Nana Shinale, other members of LLC, other Department of Personnel Management. Here had Shade. Then not outside Lini, Kohan Shane Day. Behanenzi, Selene, ako jo hota ao expedition hat gila edil wasla hat gila nahot hat ila benina kohot jokot ko ado nana additionally ndena the kosen sanast ni kantlni not hayud Quadrant Division of Public Safety has anje ni hiche da hat now benad the queen she adole by yeltio ado the queen she in the huil now oyon nen hits that that's constantly ako ado yo quite bayan ado yo quite could add ethics and rules going to have it is sleep to cut out the ni hitch hata is the ako hat gila kodo beshma sa ane not on in it no deal wala hat ina ibniya kot ada hozadla quite a deal wala aya ado la ananis zolo ohodo niligi has ani a deal was needs ne o kot aho hitching yat here jeho easily jo ado the question like for Nache has anje correctional office Awalia has anje a court out the question yes what's the lane a coach no job but no are that the naya hat needle quite don the bang has no ni get that the j adonta ni get that the person hitch in that the rash a court out ni hinanish italia benina but are there the question sanast it's at the hilan hit the destiny ni hit hata hanikay Ajinat an dan lineage ebe bilta huil now aten kode dinal jokot ada yada tio ata huishi selenko ado anda hashit eshi some of the former employees, former correctional officers became long haulers of the COVID-19. Na jenis koko Nahadil Nation that Chiheta no, Chiha Anita no, Chiheta in Chitrahanes Gay, Chitrahani Gay. On Shatan of Jokot out the Yada Tio Chitahol G's links allowed at the Quishin Kodatsas link. Nasto Benina, you're taking too much sick leave. You're holding up the position number. Jokot out the Nebic kitchen. Sa the hinte on hade nishi yinina onan she's other has kai. Kota hot eho alpetishne. How can we avoid that? How can we avoid the issue of saying, hey, you're doing a long sick leave and you're holding up the position number and we can't hire anybody? Dan no digi it out from the department. Although department the baby hanada zeho in late DPM dan kot off bizarre deeds up. They can't establish a new position number until this position number is vacated. Then we can advertise the position. Di could hit the deho hin that the hot up on the kai jo hot out a ho after the sneko. Halate Elia got at ehla. Halate codon his istan a hoslago codonat on in the clinic ben he casey zintoli jokot echo. Ako a name later Jeanette on at Quanzak we're going on 3 years. You see the name listing of certain individuals that were former employees of the Navajo Nation that have left because of this issue, because of this reason, it's something that we need to address. That's something that we need to take care of. We cannot continue to move in that direction. Then Hashid Ashi department, let's say Department of Correctional Officer, Supervisor, or Lieutenant, the DPM, the Yahadoka, Khayshi Belchihodo Ado Potan from another agency supervisor, not Dasho, DPM, the Yahanado Dash. The Sahot, any other DPM, Sahot Abelchinahdo, labor agency, or not Dasho. Ado put the headquarters, central office, the Babelchinahot, and the AAT oxygen, Hahot, such a Haot Z, hit that no, at Ate, or what are hidden Taho. A Koshidini, Nahatne, shade or what are state from DPM, not that hit that no, or what are AAA, now mass, Siki, Echo. Ako, aspect the snake hodo, Halet out 80, not only than Lenigin laid departments as a department. Halet out a kodobe not tinla, Halet out a Ishana or Hoslela. Halet on Hikodobe spans, and not only Lenny, Naha, Aya 80 Siltolista, Jokotat Echo. Are you, as a department, as DPM, are you going to bring in these supervisors, managers, lieutenants, sergeants, whoever they are from the department and bring them in? And are you going to provide them a training? Or is it just going to be a training, or is it going to be a mandatory training for them? Somehow we all need to be on the same page instead of giving individual information per agency, per headquarters, per regions, per district, all of that. Ako quite a halit a kodo benashla. Jojo ne benashla then in a hot to listen de to benashla states ako. Nihilch in a hot quite in a hot that the quadat adol bench in a hot chocota hot a hona has anit ako. Shamato what be hilda hasil net do be ilchen hatasit zine. Shamato hono yen hil net ko. Division Director Dr. Fowler ko. Aya after the shnecha hola ade ben hilna hos net latit hodoniltit donilha nene la height Jokot ko. Okon the she attendinate Shibe on the tien that del cutle ish at the next oko. Oko ashi bohone zano net dashin ya ikego, edo dan ya yago dashin to. Ohot abelche, be his now business oko. Edo dan kodo, bismas uneshlanil, kodo LOC, the ninin ya ikego shin to bohone zan to oko. Jokot don't need to oko. What are Bahanana Street or this? A haha shade. What on nation Linny in A.Abin for Dublin unneat Ashi. A what it is how she business law. A quat on Nishwahi Zinho, what Abin, Nanjo Daho. Naso Nachatona Kinahape. Naso what's or batch is the rach. Jodo odo nihle lajini o khwa tajini ho sacho tanasti da ko hot ad o ha you in hit in the end the nigi large tilate the tan has not ani tan lenigi hot an hit hi ka le ko akon the shin adot a hon job na in nob nan zilo ni nan shinan in do le shade akot ad ni hit hanana street on ha street do le put it all the Nationale. Chair, Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashnella. Honorable Vince James. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time for the presentation, for the presenters? We have some delegates who are currently on the line. I'd like to ask any of the delegates, are there any questions to the information that has been provided to the Law and Order Committee at this time? Okay, not hearing anything. I'll turn the floor back over to Ms. Woody. The floor is yours.
Thank you for that, Honorable Charles Newton and Honorable Vince James. I do appreciate the clarification, and all I can really tell you at this point is that we are moving to make necessary changes based off of, you know, the needs. We put things in priority in terms of what is the most pressing and those changes that we need to make for improvements. And we'll keep moving forward. We do understand that training is always going to be something that we will do on a quarterly basis. So definitely we'll look at more trainings as well. And the concerns about, you know, the departments that are having issues or with DPM. And, you know, all I really can say is please address those issues to me. If it's not being answered, then, you know, allow me the opportunity to address it in a more proper manner. And situations do go to Dr. Fowler, and I do appreciate, you know, her continued support and what we are trying to accomplish, not just with DHR, but DPM as a whole. And the one thing that's always, for me, it's really concerning is that when you bring somebody into an organization and you want to make the necessary improvements, and you make those necessary recommendations for improvement, it does not happen in a manner that it should. In this situation, you know, I was given the task to put an RFP together to find an entity that would help, you know, more or less like an enterprise system. And that is something that I'm waiting for. And it's now 6 months in since that happened. So it's really frustrating because those things like that take time to be implemented. And when we last reported this to HES, Health Education Human Services Committee, the response at the time was, can you have that ready to go in the fiscal year? And my response was, yes, we can definitely certainly look at that. But just those things like that do take time. And so it is very frustrating. And I hear you. I hear you. And all I can tell you at this point is if you're patient enough with me, I will get these things done. And I'll do my best at making it happen. So thank you for that. And I appreciate your time and attention. And thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Woody. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Oh, I'm sorry. I do have somebody who wishes to ask a question. Ms. Dana Barbara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize if I have a little background noise. I'm driving to an appointment, but I have one statement and two questions. The statement is, Office of Legislative Counsel, we're not first responders technically, but all of my office definitely worked through the pandemic nonstop. Nobody's taken substantial leave. But it's impossible with our office to really allow anybody to go on long leave. Because we don't have enough staff to cover. So we have a couple of attorneys who are going to be losing a substantial amount of leave, like they do every year. So that's just a statement. But a question I have: does unused sick leave roll over into your defined benefit years of service? I know that was under discussion at one point in time. I don't know if that happened. And then my second question is, so annual leave and sick leave, a program, a department pays for that through the fringe benefit rate. Now, when somebody loses all of their accrued annual leave above the 320 hours, I know that fringe benefit dollars don't come back to the program. So I'm curious where those dollars go. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me to ask.
Thank you, Dana, for asking that question. And I think that it's not just the first responders. I think that we have many, many Navajo Nation employees, many of them who are not first responders, but who were not allowed to take leave during COVID because of the work that they were doing. And so that was really kind of the purpose was really for first responders today. But I think there's still so many open or unanswered questions. I don't want to say open-ended questions, unanswered questions about this annual leave, sick leave. You know, I know that in some cases, sick leave can be, I guess, shared with other employees who might need that. And it sounds like there's a lot of responsibility that is put on the supervisors and the directors who are not sharing information. So I appreciate, Dana, that you got onto the call to get some clarification, and also Ms. Woody, everything that you've shared with us today. So we do appreciate that. So I'm going to ask one more time, are there any other questions or comments at this time from committee members or from any of the delegates who are listening in?
Gina, I need a question.
Go ahead, Shuja, the floor is yours.
Just a few lines, I reckon. It goes to the boss, the main lady, Dr. Fowler. It's Diego. Something that's really against the national law. On the application, you have a question that says, where are you disabled? If you can identify if it's still on that application, that's really it's against the law. You're discriminated or it's still on there. So my question would be, is it still on there? And if it would be feasible now that it should be taken off the application. The reason why is I had a application years before when I was a young man. I wasn't born this old. When I came out of the service back in the younger years, I picked up an application, and on that application, while I was going through it, it said, "Do you have any disability?" So I put on there loss of a left eye. So a few weeks later, they gave me a notice saying that I can come over for testing. So I did. This was for a ranger job, travel ranger. I got tested. Adonde Krishnanis Kanko, Adosh Nalia. Koreatina for interview, Nashidon. Adan Krishna has Kaka sat down the Shistako the Shadini. They told me to come in. There was about 4 or 5 rangers there sitting on tables at the house. I reckon those were the interviewing crew. So one of them asked me why I was there. So I told that person, one of the rangers, why. I told him I filled an application, and then I took the test. You asked me to come to take the test. I did that. And then you asked me to come for an interview. That's what I did. That's why I'm here. We can't take you. Not even Nashidon. But the first they explained why they can't pick me. They said they run 100-yard dash, mile runs. They do a lot of shooting and all this stuff. Even I do not hold it. So I told him, well, all the things that you said, I bet you I can outrun you in a 100-yard dash and then also in a mile run. I was a champion in mile run and 2-mile run. And I'll bet you I can shoot faster than you guys. You guys got 2 eyes. You had to close one and you had to adjust to the sight. Me, I don't have to. I just said I can just shoot. That's it. They told me to get out of here. So sorry, that's my question. If that question is still in there, if it is, you're violating the rights of disabled people within the United States and also Navajo Nation. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Delegate Eugene. So since we'll go ahead and turn the floor over at this time to the presenter. I believe, Ms. Woody, there are a few questions that have been posed for you. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Really quickly to Dana Boberoff's questions. In regards to, does unused sick leave go into defined benefits? From what I understand, and I'll get clarification specifically from retirement in regards to this question. And from I understand, yes, it does. To the extent I don't have a response for that, I will definitely get you a response. In terms of annual leave and sick leave, it goes into fringe benefit account. I believe they do have, there is a separate fringe benefit bank that holds all of these. Again, I will get clarification in relation to that question. To Honorable Eugene So about disability, yes, it's still on our application. The main reason that we do have those types of questions on the application is for accommodations. We don't, as an example, we do make it clear that there is rights of an individual with a disability to apply for positions. What the right is that both not just for the organization, but for the individual who's applying for the job, is to ensure that they are well fit for the job. I don't know the explanation in relation to what happened in your situation, but I can give you a good example within DPM. We do have a lot of employees that have, situations, impairments, disabilities, situations that may warrant them. One of the things that was brought to my attention was we were hiring for a position, and that position said the person has to have a driver's license. And my next question to that was why? The person's not going to drive, the person's going to be here. So we had an individual who applied for a position that had an impairment. And so first they were disqualified, and I looked at it and I said, no, this person is not disqualified because of this impairment. I don't see this person having to drive. And if you're going to disqualify a person because they can't drive, that's nonsense. So we have to go and look at accommodations. I can't speak for other departments in terms of what has happened or what kinds of situations or predicaments that were brought in front of them that warrant them to make a decision where they weren't going to hire a particular applicant. So once those are brought to my attention, I'll immediately review it and then get some recommendations at that point. So I hope that answers your questions. And again, to have those on an application does help us to make better and proper assessments. If you feel that if an individual feels that their rights have been violated, they need to also make that known to myself, so then I can have a better assessment of what the circumstances or situations warranted the person to be disqualified for a position. And that's where we have the appeals process. But yes, thank you for that question. I hope that answers the questions that were raised. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that, Ms. Woody. Are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Madam Chair,
Delegate Eugene Sell, the floor is yours.
I was going to ask Dana if this violates the American Disability Act. The question that I put over to HC, should it be on the application or should not that be on the application? I think it might be litigated if it's not supposed to be on the ADA. Just keeping notice because I was told because of my eye, I shouldn't be there. Instead of just writing to me in the first place when I filled out my application. They should have just told me by what they sent me. Instead of telling me to take the test and then take the test and then telling me to come for an interview. Again, that's 2 times I had to go back and forth. So even now, they violated my rights, what I was in the Navajo Nation. So these are litigation offense, the way I see it, because they would have just only told me already, but I know not hold to it because of this. So that's the need. They told me to take the test, and after I took the test, they told me to come to be interviewed. Why? In the first time when I put the application in, they would have easily just told me you're not qualified. Then that would have been just it. It is yes, that's the question. So even now, this don't sound right to me, even though what that means. But I don't know if Dana would ask a question if it's a violation of the American Disability Act. Thank you. I can ask that to Dana. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Delegate Eugene. So Dana, I believe that question was for you.
Thank you, Chair. This is Loya Khanachne Anderson. Dana had to drop off the call for a few hours, and so I will be covering for her. To answer your question, I believe that this would be a question better answered by the DOJ, so I'm not sure if there is a representative from DOJ on the line to respond to the question regarding,
Habib,
okay, great, thank you.
Habib. I'm meeting you at Subway? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that, for muting that person. Miss, go ahead, Miss Hanagami.
So I was just saying that she has just told me to refer to the DOJ, so I'm not sure if there's a representative from DOJ on the call that has a question, that can respond to delegates, so at this time.
Thank you. Cody Mbigay, can you please make sure your phone is muted? Everyone, please, please. Look at your phone, make sure your phone, the mute button is highlighted. Look at your computer, make sure that the mute button has a red line that goes across. That's when you know you're muted. I'm sorry, Ms. Henderson, I was trying to figure out who was speaking on the phone, whose phone wasn't unmuted. You said that Ms. Bobroff got off the line and you can't answer the question?
Correct. I just stated that it would probably be better suited for the DOJ to respond to this question on behalf for delegates. So,
thank you for that, Ms. Henderson. Do we have anybody from Department of Justice on the line? Do we have anybody from Department of Justice on the line? Last and final call, do we have anybody from Department of Justice on the line? Okay, not hearing anything. Shaja, Delegate Eugene, so you might have to email Department of Justice and ask them the question. We don't have anybody on the line from Department of Justice. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments regarding the presentation that has been provided to us here at this time? Okay, not hearing anything. For the record, we do have this report from Thomasita Woody that has been given to us. Her agent was Racita Tati. A motion was made by Delegate Vince James, second by Vice Chair Otto. So we'll go ahead and move forward at this time to take a vote to accept the report. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, that is so.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting, and Honorable Edmund Yazzie not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. We did hear Delegate Edmund Yazzie on the phone earlier. I don't know why he didn't vote, but we'll go ahead and count him as absent at this time. So with that, committee members, we'll go ahead and now proceed forward to the next. Ms. Woody, thank you so much. And Ms. Toddy, thank you for presenting the information to us here at Law and Order Committee. We'll go ahead and proceed forward to the next item on the agenda. We have a report from Mr. Mark Graham, the Executive Director, Office of the Navajo Tax Commission, and also Jesse Delmar, the Executive Director for the Navajo Division of Public Safety, on the First Responders Fund. I know I heard Mr. Mark Graham on the call earlier. He did announce himself. Do we have Director Jesse Delmar on the line? Do we have anybody from Division of Public Safety on the line? Do we have Division of Public Safety on the line? Lorraine, did you contact Mr. Delmar to let him know that he's on the agenda for today?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee, I did send them the agenda from last week, and then also I sent them another agenda this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Mark Graham, what we can do at this time, since we don't have your other agent available, committee members, I know that this is kind of a slight change from the agenda. I don't know if we're gonna have to do a motion to suspend the floor rules to make this change. But what we can go ahead and get the report from Mr. Mark Graham, and I can supplement a little bit about what we're doing regarding this First Responders Fund. Committee members, is there anybody who objects to this?
Motion to defer to next LOC meeting. Delegate James here.
Okay, so motion to refer back to the next LOC meeting. Can I get a second for that?
Oh, the case, so.
Thank you for that. So with that, a motion has been made by Delegate Vince James, a second by Delegate Eugene So. So with that, committee members, this motion and second to defer it back. We don't have, I guess we'll go ahead and take an official vote so we can defer it back since a motion and a second was made. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh, God, it's a.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Sherelle, Vice Chair Otto So just now texted me. He said that he votes green. He said he apologizes. He fell off and he fell off the line and is trying to get back on, but he votes green for motion to next report.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Otto So votes green via text. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting. And Honorable Edmund Yazzie absent, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, committee members, I'm going to defer this report to the next Law and Order Committee agenda. Lorraine, make sure that it's on the next agenda. Mr. Mark Graham, I know you have been on the call, so I do apologize that that you were on the call and that we're not going to hear the report. So hopefully you'll be available next week to provide us that report.
Madam Chair, thank you. I appreciate that. I actually was just typing it up, so I'll have a written report for the committee. I'll have that out probably this week so that you can review it and be ready for any questions. And we can go from there at the next meeting.
Thank you for being on top of that, Mr. Graham. We appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Next item on the agenda, we have old business. We have none. We are at the close of the meeting. Before I ask for an adjournment, I will remind committee members that our next Law and Order Committee meeting is scheduled on November 14th. I'm sorry, November 21st. And then we have another Law and Order Committee scheduled on November 28th. And then we go into December. However, committee members, I would like to ask you, and we'll put it on the next item, Lorraine, make sure this is on the next item on the agenda under discussion. to have a Law and Order Committee meeting on December 12th at Twin Arrows at the substation. The reason for that is we are working to contact the chapters that are ready to go with a substation being built. And what we want to do is we want to invite the Aneth chapter, the Twahajale chapter, the Alamo chapter, the Tohatchee chapter. There's also the Shiprock chapter, and then there is the Aneth chapter to come out and to tour the facility there that's at Twin Arrows. So we can have the meeting there at Twin Arrows at the substation. And then as soon as the meeting adjourns, we can go ahead and give, we can get a tour, everyone, of the substation so that those communities will get an idea of this substation that can be built in their community. And so if we are good with that, I'll go ahead and put that on the discussion topic at the next next agenda for December 12th as a discussion topic to have the December 12th Law and Order Committee meeting at the Twin Arrows Navajo Casino Resort substation, not at the casino, but at the substation. So we'll go ahead and add that as a topic item. So with that, committee members, those are the only announcements that I have at this time. We do have a special council session that is scheduled for Wednesday, the 16th. And then FYI, committee members, on November 18th, if you have time, we will be having a meeting in Phoenix at Parsons. This was a very, very last minute meeting that was scheduled. The purpose of this meeting is we need to review the blueprints that have been completed by Parsons for the facilities, the public safety facilities. I believe that there are 4 facilities, but we're looking actually specifically at the Shiprock facility, the Shiprock Police Department. And the reason for reviewing the blueprints is the cost of the facility has increased more than the recommended 14% that has been given to us by the investment committee. So if you are available for Friday, November 18th, the meeting starts at 9 o'clock in the morning in Phoenix. And again, it is a very, very last minute meeting that we had to put up because the investment committee is requesting final amounts for the public safety facility buildings. And so Shiprock has gone over the recommended 14%. So we'll be reviewing the blueprints at that time to, I guess, decide how we're going to address the changes that have been made. So those are my announcements at this time, committee members. If you would like to attend the Phoenix meeting, let me know, text me or email me, and we can see if we can get an ORT for LOC since it's involving the Shiprock Police Department. So with that, committee members, I don't have any other announcements. Are there any announcements that need to be made at this time? Not hearing anything, committee members, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Vice Chair.
Motion made by Vice Chair Otto. So can I get a second? Second made by Honorable Eugene So. So with that, committee members, we'll go ahead and go to vote to adjourn at 12:19 p.m. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call for adjournment?
Yes, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jan votes green.
Thank you, Honorable Vince James, votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Vote is yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene So, votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Otto So, votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting, and Honorable Edmund Yazzie absent. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, we are hereby adjourned at 12:19 p.m. You guys be safe, enjoy the day, and until our next Law and Order Committee meeting.
Two.